Welcome back to the Business and AI podcast. This is your weekly AI Roundup for February 21st through February 28th, 2026. This week, AI stopped pretending it is just software. We saw a reported $110 billion funding round, a 6-gigawatt infrastructure agreement, and a reminder that the biggest limit to AI might be something very unsexy: electricity. And on the policy side, defense AI went from quiet procurement to loud headlines. Let's break down what happened and what it means for your business, your job, and society. Here's what we will be talking about this week. First, money and infrastructure. Then, government and defense policy. After that, the chips and cloud arms race. Then, new models and efficiency breakthroughs. And we'll wrap with applied AI stories, security, networks, and workforce shifts. If you're building, investing, or leading a team with AI, you'll want to watch how these pieces connect. All right, let's start where the pressure is highest: money and power. Story 1. OpenAI is reported to have closed a $110 billion funding round, putting its valuation around $840 billion. That number is so big it changes the conversation. This is not just growth capital, it is compute capital. As you can see, the implied goal is simple: buy or secure the capacity to train and serve increasingly powerful systems. For business leaders, the key question is not, wow, that's huge. It is, what happens to pricing, access, and competitive advantage when a few players can finance AI at nation scale? Here's our business impact number 1. Expect faster product cycles, more enterprise packaging, and likely more bundling through cloud partnerships. If you rely on AI APIs, your risk is vendor concentration. Your opportunity is improved capability and possibly better reliability as infra expands. And for societal impact, mega rounds accelerate the AI-rich versus AI-poor divide. The upside is more breakthroughs and better tools. The downside is that power concentrates, and governance gets more important, not less. Here is your actionable takeaway. If AI is becoming core to your product, build a fallback plan now, including model portability, multi-provider routing, and cost monitoring. Next is the less glamorous story that might matter more than the model benchmarks. Reporting this week highlights that the AI data center boom is colliding with grid limits, interconnection queues, turbine shortages, and plain old time to power. If you're watching this chart, the point is simple. Some AI sites are operating at, or planning for, power demand that looks like a small city. That means the bottleneck is not just GPUs. It is transmission, generation, and permitting. Here is business impact number 2. Cloud costs can rise, deployment timelines can slip, and location becomes strategy. If you're building AI products, optimize inference, reduce calls, cache outputs, and treat efficiency as a competitive moat. And for societal impact, power constraints can push more fossil peaker usage in the short term, even while AI is pitched as a productivity unlock. Expect more debates around energy fairness, local impacts, and emissions accounting. Now let's move on to the policy story that every enterprise should pay attention to. This week, defense AI moved from quiet contracts to loud controversy. Reporting described disruption around Anthropic use inside agencies, and OpenAI stepping forward with a Department of Defense agreement that emphasizes layered protections. Here's the part businesses should study. The story is not just who got the deal, it is the shape of the agreement. As you can see, the reported red lines read like a governance template: prohibited uses, constraint language, and a clear attempt to define responsibility when systems become powerful. Of course, there are business impacts. This is governance by contract. Expect similar clauses to show up in healthcare, finance, insurance, and critical infrastructure procurement. If your company sells AI, your contracts are about to become your compliance program. And for societal impact, these guardrails are a signal that public trust is fragile. There is real concern about surveillance and automation in life-altering domains. The more agentic tools become, the more society demands limits, audits, and accountability. It's also interesting to observe the Fed tone on AI disruption, centered on productivity versus disruption. Reporting this week quoted Fed officials, suggesting they do not expect AI to cause massive near-term economic upheaval. But here's the business takeaway. Markets may be assuming a gradual productivity curve, not an overnight job collapse. And for societal takeaway, the disruption still arrives unevenly, which is why upskilling and transition planning matter. Next up, the hardware moves that decide who can actually run all this AI. Meta and AMD announced a major expansion, described as a 6 gigawatt AI infrastructure agreement across multiple generations of AMD GPUs. If you're watching this visual, here's the key. Hyperscalers are diversifying their AI hardware stack. This is not only about performance, it is about supply security, negotiating leverage, and avoiding single vendor dependency. Based on this, on our business impact number 5, more competition can mean more options and potentially better pricing over time, but the best capacity will still go to the biggest buyers first. And for societal impact, the power of platform companies increases when they own the infrastructure layer of intelligence. Reporting this week also says NVIDIA is preparing a new inference-focused processor platform aimed at faster and more efficient AI processing. This tracks with reality. Training gets headlines, but inference gets invoices. Here is business impact number 6. Better inference hardware lowers unit costs, which unlocks more real-time applications, voice assistants, live copilots, and multi-step agents that would otherwise be too slow or too expensive. And for societal impact, cheaper inference means AI becomes more embedded in daily services, which raises stakes around privacy, security, and bias at scale. Another reported story this week is that DeepSeek is said to be aligning model rollout with domestic hardware ecosystems, limiting early optimization access for certain U.S. chipmakers while giving Chinese suppliers a head start. I thought this was particularly interesting as it goes to show how strategy is a major factor for success. And here is the business impact number 7. Ecosystem fragmentation can create best model on this stack dynamics. If you deploy globally, your infra strategy may need regional flexibility. And for societal impact, this reinforces the geopolitics of AI, where performance, access, and national policy become deeply entangled. Now for the fun part, new model ideas that chase speed and efficiency. Inception Labs introduced Mercury 2, positioning diffusion-style generation as a path to extremely fast output, geared for real-time agent loops and tool use. For businesses, speed changes product design. If your assistant can respond instantly, you can build workflows that feel like software, not chat. It also reduces cost in many architectures because you spend less time per request. And for societal impact, faster AI can increase dependency and automation in everyday decision-making. That makes transparency and error handling more important, not less. In another quick update, Multiverse Computing released Hypernova 60B 2602, described as a heavily compressed model and made available on Hugging Face. The headline idea is simple: compress the size, keep much of the capability. This is really impactful for businesses, as compression can make private, on-prem, or smaller cloud deployments more realistic. That is attractive for teams with strict data requirements or tight budgets. And for societal impact, more accessible models can spread benefits, but also spread misuse. Compression is a force multiplier, both for productivity and for risk. Let's close with the practical signals: security, networks, and the workforce. Here's a supporting story about IBM Threat Index. IBM's threat reporting this week emphasizes a familiar pattern. Attackers use AI to move faster, but they still walk through basic security gaps. Here's what businesses can take away from this. Do not chase futuristic defenses while leaving fundamentals behind. Patch management, access controls, and logging still win weeks like this. And as for societal takeaway, faster attack cycles increase the risk of widespread disruption and misinformation. The AI-RAN Alliance signaled growing momentum, with industry players pushing AI-native network architecture and demos around Mobile World Congress season. Business impact. Edge AI gets easier when networks are optimized for it. Societal impact. Connectivity gets smarter, but surveillance and data governance questions get louder. Here is another exciting story. University of Washington and Microsoft expanded collaboration tied to AI learning and research, aimed at preparing the workforce. This impacts businesses as the talent pipeline becomes a competitive advantage for regions and companies. And for societal impact, access to AI education is now a major equity question. Here's a quick one on energy companies and data center demand. Energy sector reporting this week points to data center demand reshaping forecasts. On business impact, power contracts and pricing volatility matter more to AI strategy than most teams admit. And for societal impact, local communities will increasingly negotiate the trade-offs of hosting AI infrastructure. Moving on, Crescendo announced AI-native CX Insights positioning, framing the move from passive dashboards to more dynamic intelligence. AI seemed to hit businesses in many ways this week. Here's another business impact. Customer experience becomes more automated, faster to detect issues, and easier to personalize. And for societal impact, personalization is useful, but it must be paired with consent and responsible data use. One more story before we wrap up. Government agencies raise alarm about use of Elon Musk's Grok chatbot. Reports describe federal safety concerns around certain systems, even as interest and experimentation continue. And our business takeaway from this is safety, compliance, and reputation risk are now part of the product decision, not an afterthought. All right, here are the big 4 takeaways from this week. 1. AI is becoming an infrastructure business. Funding and power access shape everything. 2. Policy is catching up through contracts and procurement rules, especially in high-stakes domains. 3. The chip ecosystem is diversifying, and that changes pricing, availability, and geopolitics. 4. Efficiency is the new superpower, whether it's faster generation or smaller models. Like, subscribe, and tell me which story you want a deeper business playbook for. That's your AI Roundup for the week. See you on our next episode on the Business and AI Podcast.